I mean, in Serena and my world, that's a big deal.
I mean, there's a reason why there was sequence on the cape the way
right.
that
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So there's a very specific reason that why we are talking about what we are talking about today. And that's because the last couple of days have been physically challenging, shall we say. And this sort of came up in our last podcast episode, but it's very up and it's very present for us right now, which is part of the reason we thought this is the time to record this. So what we're talking about today is we're talking about listening to your body. Now, I want to caveat that by saying not everybody can really feel into their body in the same way as others can. So obviously if you're not somebody who has that kind of bodily sense the way that others do, there are different indicators to look for. This episode, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on using the body as a guide. And the interesting thing is, like, what we're talking about today, there may be, warning signs that your body is indicating something to you without you necessarily feeling it in quite that way. So this is all coming about because on Friday, I kind of mentioned it in the last episode, I was supposed to be going to the locals walking parade for Fantasy Fest, which is like one of my favorite events to go to. And it had been a busy week because on top of all the Fantasy Fest stuff, I'm also in the process of trying to pack to go on my trip. So there's a lot going on right now. And there's a lot of editing podcasts and recording podcasts and uploading podcasts so that things are kind of as taken care of as they can be before I leave, and because we're not entirely sure how robust the internet's going to be when I'm on the boat and when I'm going to be able to use it and to what extent I'm going to be able to use it. So we're trying to plan ahead and make sure that things are kind of covered in advance. I went to an event on Thursday night that I thought was going to be a very easy event and a very short event that I was working at, and it ended up being a very labor intensive event and a very long event. It was like the exact opposite of what I thought it was going to be. And so Serena and I were recording on Friday morning and I said, I feel like I'm coming down with something. Like something I just was feeling, you know, those kind of beginning stages of just feeling a little off. I had a kind of little bit of a tight throat and I had a little bit of kind of like stuffiness that was going on. And I was like, I'm just not feeling that great. And the walking parade is one of the events that I look forward to the most every year. So part of me didn't want to kind of admit defeat and say I wasn't going. So I went out to get some supplements to kind of help me boost me. And I thought, and like in those early stages, it can go a couple of different ways. So I'm like, well, maybe this is just, I'm feeling a little under the weather because last night was a bit intense. I went and got my supplements. I will come back. I will spare you the details of what happened when I got back because it's wasn't that pleasant. But let's just say my body made it clear in no uncertain terms that I should not be going anywhere that afternoon. And I was like, even after the incident that was a little bit dramatic, like bodily wise, when I got back, I was like, well, I'm feeling okay now.
Like for Halloween with Exorcist vibes.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was not a good look. But even that, like, that experience was like kind of short lived, and I was like, well, maybe I would be okay. Maybe I'll be okay. And as I'm kind of thinking this, there's a part of my brain going, but I really want to do the locals parade. And there's another part of my brain going, Claire, your body is letting you know clearly with did it stutter? No, it did not. Oh, actually, just suddenly realizing that's probably an ableist term. Like that's a term that's kind of used in a kind of common parlance.
I feel like it's one of those ones that has dual meaning, and just to be safe,
but what I mean is the fact that we're using that as a term in that sense is ableist. So I'm like, I'm not going to use that. Like, let's just say, did it give any indicator that it was maybe a little 50-50 on whether this was a good idea or not? No, it was clear. Get your butt into bed and do not move for several hours. So that's what I did. I went into bed reluctantly. But reluctantly in the sense because I wanted to do the parade, but I knew, I just knew my body was giving me the clear signals. You are not meant to do the walking parade.
You were having the FOMO and the ROMO all in one, like you're saying. They kind of work together.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to our last episode. We'll put a link in the show notes where we talk about FOMO, ROMO, SOMO, and JOMO. And so I was like, so I got into bed, and as I sat in bed that afternoon, my temperature slowly started climbing up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I have a fever now as well. So this is definitely a good thing that I wasn't, because I mean, the walking parade, I was going to have to bike to where the walking parade started, walk the walking parade, then walk back to where my bike was located, and then bike home. It wasn't like I could show up, sit at a bar, prop myself up and just sit there it was going to require some energy. Plus, there's a lot of people. It's very like this kind of sensory overload that kind of happens. There were likely a lot of people I was going to know there. So I'm sure there would have been a lot of interactions and stuff. It would have been a lot. And so while I was there, I was like, I'm not meant to be going to this thing at all. And part of me was very nervous because this time last year, actually this time 3 weeks ago last year, I had exactly the same kind of experience where I started to feel a little bit under the weather. But because of the responsibilities and the commitments that I'd agreed to at that point, plus various other factors, I didn't feel able to be like, I'm just going to take a couple of days and stay in bed and get myself well. And what happened this time last year was I ended up sick for months. I mean, we're probably talking, actually, it was probably about 4 months all told, because it was like 3 months after Fantasy Fest, and I've been sick for the majority of the month leading up to Fantasy Fest. And this is very common. I can't tell you the number of people I've seen on Facebook this week going, I feel like I'm getting coming down with something. I'm feeling a bit rough, because everybody goes all out and doesn't really take care of their foundation function needs very well this week, generally speaking. And I was really concerned because this happened on the Friday. The following Thursday, I'm flying out of Miami to go onto the boat. I have a lot to do between those 2 points. And I also want to make sure I make it onto the flight okay. So I'm, concerned at this point because I'm like, I cannot afford to get sick right now. We'd even debated, should we carry on recording? Should we record another episode on Friday?
Do you remember what the actual phrase was of that?
I can't remember what I said.
So Claire was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I have another episode in me. And I'm like, well, what if we didn't record and you went and sat in the hot tub and just let your body react? Because I know her muscles, part of it was, muscle tension. And she goes, I don't have it in me to go to the hot tub and sit in the hot tub. I'm like, well, there's your answer. If you don't have it in you to hot tub, you probably don't have it in you to podcast. So why don't we just call it? And, yeah, it was comical, but at the same time, sometimes we do need that. Like, I really want to. And today I'm not feeling great, but I checked in and I'm like, no, I've got this in me. And we finished. And I'm like, no, I can, I'm here checking in this. It's not going to impact me any more than sitting on the couch would at this point. And
I think that's also where the hot tub thing was. It's like, if I got to go to the hot tub, I've got to go get myself ready. I've got to go and bike to the hot tub. I've got to sit in the hot tub, which would be lovely. But then I have to get myself out of the hot tub and dry myself and get back and then have a shower. It felt like there were a lot of steps to that. At least if I was recording, I was in the position I was going to be recording from. I just had to talk for another hour. But still, it was an indicator that maybe I was probably in the space where I needed some rest. Now, the interesting thing is, by listening to what my body was telling me and laying in bed and not doing an awful lot. By, I would say, probably six hours after this whole thing started to really kick off, maybe even less than that, my fever had gone. It had gone up, and it was interesting because I said to a friend of mine, I'm not going to take anything for this fever. It was a low grade fever. It was not like concerningly high, but it was definitely elevated. And I could feel that I had the aches and the chills and all the gorgeous things that come along with having a fever. I knew I had a fever of some description. I just knew it was low grade, and because I had a thermometer, so I checked. And I said, I'm not going to take anything, because my hope is that, because the part of the fever is actually your body trying to fight whatever it is that's going on. And I'm hoping that if I take something to bring down the fever, it might not get rid of whatever it is that's causing the fever. I'm going to let it run its course. Unless it gets concerningly high, at that point, I'll take something and what have you. So, and then by Saturday morning, the majority of my symptoms had subsided. Yeah, I was feeling a little bit tired, but I wasn't feeling really that sick anymore. And so I sat in bed on Saturday and did some, what I call brainless work. Work that doesn't really require my brain to be, I wasn't doing anything that was going to require a lot of brain power, a lot of focus or concentration. It was something pretty mindless I could just get on with, but was still going to move me a little further forward, because it allowed me to kind of relax and be like, okay, I can sit here and do this. It's not really costing me any energy. And then when I hit that point where I'm like, I feel like I need to break, I need to rest, I need to lie down. That's what I did. And the interesting thing was, by yesterday, I really was in a position where I wasn't really experiencing any symptoms anymore. I felt fine. I have a little bit of stuffiness still, but we live on an island where there are a lot of allergies here, so that I can't even tell whether that is what I had or whether that's just another day in the life of Key West. And I ended up going out yesterday evening. I went for dinner. I went to a karaoke bar and saw a couple of friends of mine. Didn't have a late night, but it was later than I anticipated having. And then this morning I got up and I did some things to kind of prep for the trip. And now I've been podcasting. And it kind of just struck me when I think about the difference between this year and last year, in the sense that, okay, it may have taken a little persuasion this year, and it may have taken somebody else holding up the mirror going, let's have a little look, shall we? What do we think is the right decision right now? Yeah, okay, I'll go to bed and rest. Now, it's important to say that I may have had something different last year. It may have been a different sickness that I had. It may have been that had I done last year what I did this year, that I wouldn't have recovered. I would still have been just as sick. We don't know. But it was a very similar, and I will say last year I didn't have a fever. This year I did have a fever. So in a lot of ways, it felt like more intense what I was dealing with this year. I sort of think to myself, and I think I was in the same situation both years. Like, I still have a lot of pressure on things in terms of things that have got to be done within a deadline this year. And in some respects, they're kind of more important deadline, because it's like things I need to live for the next 2 months, not just, there's not going to be sequins on a cape for a parade. Grand scheme of things, in Serena and my world, that's a big deal.
There's a reason why there was sequins on the cape, the way
right. There were things I could have compromised on, and it wouldn't have been the end of the world last year. There are things that I really can't afford to compromise on this year in the grand scheme of things. Yes, maybe I wouldn't have seen the friends of mine for dinner yesterday, but comparatively, I think that I probably could have afforded those 2 days better last year than I could have this year. And the interesting thing is, as I said, I feel like it was the same thing that was pushing me both times to be like, oh, what if we just did another podcast? What if I just went and did this walking parade? Because I'm doing the walking parade because also I'm going to miss a bunch of parades while I'm away. And I know I'm going to miss going to those parades. But if I have this parade, then maybe I'll feel better about missing those parades. There was a whole bunch of reasonings that were in my head. But it occurred to me this morning, what if last year I did what I did this year? What if I just took 2 days and laid in bed and rested and dosed myself up on supplements? Now, I was taking supplements last year. I was doing everything possible. I was throwing everything at the illness I had last year to try and knock it on its head. because it was compromising the things that I was planning on doing. Like I did a full, first ever time in my life that I've done a fully performed vocal and dance routine at the same time with a sickness that was affecting my throat and my vocals. So, I mean, it was rough. I mean, it really was causing me some issues last year. But I wonder if I'd just taken that time to notice the symptoms, and that could be the physical symptoms, as in like feeling it in my body and listening to what my body is saying. It could be that there were, I mean, this year there were external symptoms, big external symptoms that if I couldn't feel it in my body, I could see it. Like, yeah, okay, this was an issue. And I kind of wonder if I had taken those 2 days last year, would I have been able to do the same thing I did this year and just heal myself and get to the point where I have more resource for the things that I was needing to get done in the time frame that I needed to get it done. Just let me realize I didn't put my phone on airplane mode. And would I have not been sick for as many months as I was after? I mean, people were really worried about me because I was sick for so long. I missed out. One of the reasons that in the last episode I was talking about like the FOMO of like the holiday events this year is because I missed out on a lot of them last year because I was sick, and I was sad to have missed out on them last year. So I was looking forward to doing them this year. But there are better choices that are going to meet my needs better than being here and doing those parades. But I just kind of wonder, and I think, how often do we sacrifice our well-being because we think it's the one thing that is expendable? Mm. And it's like everything else, all the other commitments and things. I mean, the truth of the matter is I could have bowed out of some of the things that we'd said that we were going to do. I could have checked out of them. I wouldn't have wanted to, but I could have done. I could have got other people to help with like some of the costuming stuff that I was doing. And just said, I'm sick. I cannot get out of bed right now. And I just wonder how last year could have played out differently had I listened to my body when it first, and I remember the day when I woke up and I'm like, no, like I cannot afford to get sick right now. And it wasn't like I woke up and I was like aches and chills and all that sort of stuff. It was just that slight little throaty niggle, not the clearing niggles that we talk about in the clearing niggles episode, but that little kind of niggly feeling in my throat where I'm like, oh, this is normally my indicator. This is normally the warning sign that I'm getting sick. And I remember when and I could have at that point said, I need to go rest. And I didn't. And it cost me. Now, as I said, it could have played out differently. I could have rested and I could have still ended up in exactly the same position because maybe I had something different and maybe the rest wouldn't have helped me in the way that it did this year. But the truth of the matter is the rest would have helped. It may not have solved the problem, but it would have damn sure supported my needs way better to be able to allow me to do the other things I needed to do.
I know it's something I've said quite often in my lifetime. It's like, I can't afford to be sick right now. I don't have time to be sick right now. And it's almost like the second, like when you said that, I'm like, well, the second you say that, that's when you need to really check in and be like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I don't get sick right now? Usually pushing through and getting the other things done is not the cure for that. I mean,
what?
It's,
oh, shit, I have to take that out of the program. Like,
I mean, but it's not been successful.
I'm joking. That's not in the program.
But like when you said it, I'm like, that's kind of the, like any time that I've said that and I've pushed through, I've gone into rescuer mode, I've done whatever I've done, I've never come out on the other side being like, I'm glad I didn't listen to my body.
That was good choices.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sure that phrase is very popular with people. Like, I'm sure people say that in their own lives. I'm sure there's phrases that people have that is like, what's that trigger phrase? The second you say that phrase, that you need to kind of be like, oh, okay. Like, well, if I'm saying that, that means that I'm obviously feeling my body is compromised a little bit, because if not, I wouldn't be saying I don't have time to be sick right now. Like,
well, and let's look at about what does that phrase actually mean? What it's saying is, I don't have the time or capacity with the commitments I have, which are normally linked to other people's needs, to take care of my foundation function need. That's what we're basically saying in that. And that is wild when you put it in those terms. Like the whole, I think we've just got so used to saying and hearing, I can't afford to get sick right now. If someone came to you and said, you know what, I really can't afford time to do what I need to get well, because I'm too busy taking care of everybody else. You'd be like, wait, hold on. What did you just say? Wait, what? No, hold on. Say that. Yeah, that is wild. And it may be that what we're saying is, and a lot of the time, I think that there's a deeper layer to it, which is that I believe that I think, and this is at a subconscious level, I don't think people are consciously thinking this. What we're basically saying is, I believe if I take the time and resources I need to get to the point where my body is not sick, that my other needs are going to be compromised because I won't take care of everybody else's needs and therefore they won't take care of mine. Or because I'm not going to do the thing that would have got me the acknowledgement that would have also helped my value need because my value need is unmet. Well, you could actually just take care of your acknowledgement and value need at that moment if you understand your needs and how to meet them for yourself and take that out the equation. It's the whole, I don't want to let somebody else down. But why don't we want to let somebody else down? We don't want to let somebody else down because we don't want letting somebody else down to cause a compromise to our needs.
I think another
that's really what we're saying.
Another factor of it is being included. Like sometimes it's, you're not worried about letting somebody down. Sometimes it's like, oh, I got the invite, I don't want to like bail on this because then maybe I won't get invited again or something. Like there's many reasons why we react, and many reasons why our needs might be compromised that kind of lead us to this way of thinking.
Well, and again, need sends that. You're basically saying value need. I am concerned that if I don't show up, I won't be valued enough to come back next time. Or love and connection need. If I don't show up this time, I'm not going to be invited back next time, and therefore I won't be as connected to these people. Like there's all of these things, and it's almost always needs based. I don't know a situation in which it's not. But this was a real wake up call for me. Like what happened this year would be like, I just realized, I'm like, I could have pushed through on Friday. I could have recorded another podcast. I could have gone and done the walking parade. I cannot imagine where I would be right now had I done those things.
Doubtfully in front of the camera.
Doubtfully in front of the camera. I probably wouldn't have seen the friends that I saw last night. I'd probably be panicking even more about the stuff that I needed to get done before I left.
Or being sick when you left.
Or both. And it's very interesting how I think that's the thing, is that our bodies, generally speaking, are the most incredible. They're the most incredible things because we are self-healing for the most part. And I know that there are like chronic illnesses which we maybe can't heal from because of gene expression or what have you. There may be situations in which that is not the case. And a lot of the time, even in those situations, like if we cut ourselves, and again, different conditions notwithstanding, like we cut ourselves, our body heals it. It puts it back together again. Like if we get sick, the reason we get a fever is because it's our body's way of fighting the thing that is attacking our body. It's like, we're going to make it so unbearably hot in here that this thing is not going to be able to survive. Like our body functions to support itself. And the irony is that we have been taught culturally to sacrifice what our body needs in order to heal itself in these situations. We've been conditioned into going, oh no, it's fine, I'll rest a little bit later. No, I don't need to take my supplements. No, I don't need to rest. No, I don't need to take the day off. I'll be fine. Like the second you have that, I'll be fine, what you're basically saying is, I expect to be able to still be okay while sacrificing the things that I need for my health and well-being.
Well, when you put it that way.
And this is not coming from this kind of superior, holier than thou, look, we know what we're doing, here's how to do it. This is coming from us going, yeah, caught ourselves making bad choices. Or on the cusp of making bad choices. Yeah. Made bad choices last year. And it's like, even knowing this stuff, sometimes we lose our focus for a second. Sometimes we're focused on other things and we forget to really take care of our needs first and foremost. And the truth of the matter is, if we don't take care of our needs, we are going to be almost certainly less than useless to the person that we're trying to help or people that we're trying to help. A lot of the time we're doing this because we want to support others. We want to show up for others. We want to show up for ourselves. And we can't do that if we don't have the interior resources to be able to do that. And there are some of us that sometimes, and this is the thing, is like, even, and like segueing slightly into if you have like chronic conditions, if you have whether that is a disability, whether you have a chronic health condition, whether you have whether you have like something like autism or ADHD, where you don't have enough spoons to be able to do certain things, we have to make choices at times about, okay, what am I going to do and what am I not going to do to ensure that I have what I need to be able to function as a human being. So it's just like, this is where we're like focusing on the roots of the tree. And we're so conditioned in our society to not pay attention to our roots and not pay attention to our trunk. We're so focused on the branches and the leaves and the fruit of the tree. And even after you've been doing it for years, sometimes you have that moment where it's like, oh, what's up there? Oh, shit, I was doing it again. Back down to the roots. And we know that the taking care of our needs is something that is done. Yes, it's cyclical in nature in the sense that we want to be taking care of all of our needs simultaneously. But we know that the most critical needs to take care of are the ones at the root of our tree. What is the number one need that is the foundation function need? The tap root of our tree is the foundation function need. That is the thing that anchors the tree. It provides the nourishment to the tree, even in less than ideal situations. If you compromise that need at a time when it needs to be prioritized, chances are your tree might fall over. And it wouldn't even need a hurricane to do it. A light breeze, and we're like, oh, don't. That's what happened last year. Like, I didn't take care of my foundation function need, and before I know it, I am laid out. I'm flat out. I'm just laid out for 2-3 months, not able to do anything.
Foundation function has the way of stopping you in your tracks. Like, all the needs can, but that one will, that one will be like, done. Nope.
Take you out. Yeah. And the thing about it is that, and so often what ends up happening is that we start to feel a little bit better. And then we go, oh, I'm feeling better now. And then we go and blow out. And then we end up like 1 step forward, 5 steps backwards, where it's like, okay, yes. And that's why, I mean, last night I was out with some friends. They were still there when I left the place that I left last night. Yeah, I could have had a late night. Yes, I could have tied one on. And the truth of the matter is I didn't. I made very careful decisions in the context of where I was at to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm going to choose to stay out a little bit later than I was planning on, but this is the point. I'm done. Going home, turning into a pumpkin. It's Halloween season after all. And if I hadn't made that decision and I decided to go, oh, but I'm having so much fun, I'm going to stay out, I probably also wouldn't be recording today.
Something that you mentioned that kind of triggered something in me was you said, a lot of times when we're compromising, especially our foundation function need, it's so that we can show up for somebody else, or, and you mentioned also showing up for yourself. I want to state clearly, showing up is not just in physicality. Like, it's not just you being there. You need to be resourced to truly show up and support for people. Like, you just being there, it may do something, but if like
maybe better than you not being there at all.
Yeah, and sometimes it may, like, it's actually better for you not to show up in physicality and not be the person you want to be, the person they're expecting. Like, if you're the get it done, like if Claire and I, when we show up and we're not quite in it, it's pretty obvious because of what we do when we are resourced, what we want to do, how we operate. And like, if we're, pushing ourselves, like there are times I can think back and I'm like, yeah, that wasn't our best moment because we weren't completely, we weren't showing up for ourselves. We weren't actually showing up for the event. We were present for it, but showing up for ourselves is nourishing ourselves, listening to what needs are up, taking care of those needs.
Well, I'm not even going to say we were present for it. We were there in person, but I don't think we were present. And that's the thing, is like, if you're wanting to show up for a friend because they're going through a really hard time, but you don't have the capacity to focus on what they're saying, so you're just like, how supportive is that really? I mean, being honest, as somebody who's experienced that, you end up feeling more alone in that situation than if they hadn't been there at all. And like Serena, I mean, we talked about this in several episodes ago when we talked about like when someone else can't show up for you when you want or need them to. And in that moment, Serena showing up for me in that point in time would have been detrimental to her. It probably would have been detrimental to me. It could have been detrimental to our relationship. Her saying, I can't show up for you right now, I got to take care of myself right now, was the kindest thing and the most supportive thing, ironically, that she could have done for me, her, and the relationship in between. And it's kind of the same thing. I mean, we're talking about this in terms of like the physical needs right now, in terms of the foundation function need, but this is also true of the other needs as well. It's true of your emotional experience, the expression need. If that is firing off and you are just emotionally not able to be there for somebody, that's also an indicator of like, I got to go and take care of my needs. So it's like, basically what we're saying in this is when any of your needs are screaming at you that I need to be met now, I cannot wait. Now, we're not always good at hearing those signals. That's why the physical ones are a good one, because, well, not good, because if they're happening, that probably things aren't in the best place, but they're good in the sense they tend to be clear. As I said in the last episode, there was no doubt in my mind. My body was making very clear to me on Friday, you're going nowhere today. I couldn't have avoided it if I tried. It was right there in front of me. Sometimes with our emotional needs, because we're not as tuned into them, we don't necessarily notice those. But it's like noticing, like, are you easily triggered at the moment? Is your fuse shorter than usual? Are you feeling irritated for no particular reason, or you're not aware of what the reason is that you're irritated? Are other people's existence bothering you? Like, all big indicators.
Do you want to actually go? Like, there's been so many times where somebody's like, oh, you want to do this? You want to come over? Blah, blah. And I'm like, I really don't. And then I kind of like, muster it up. Rally. And I rally. And sometimes that does serve me, but most of the time I'm like, I'm just rallying. And when I'm there, I'm either rallying and I'm not quite being in alignment because I just want to sit there and like really like not be in a social. It's like, I want to be with these people, but it's kind of weird if I want to be there and I don't want to speak with anybody and I don't want to talk to anybody and it's a party. Like, maybe I shouldn't go to this party and just be like, hey, I'm going to rest today, because my presence there could completely change other people's experience, could like reflect, and not that being where you at should ever really reflect poorly on yourself, but like if you're at a party and you're the person in the corner who just has their arms crossed because you didn't want to go, like, is that serving you being there? Oh,
well, and also the chances are being in that kind of environment, if you're in that kind of space, is probably not going to be supportive to you. You're probably going to end up more drained on the other side of it, less resourced, and it may impact your ability to do other things. So like, look at what's happened in the last week. Yeah, I was in a position where if I didn't listen to where I was on Friday, and yeah, there was a part of me that was sad to have not gone to the walking parade. There's a part of me also thinks that maybe there was a reason I wasn't supposed to be there. Like, I can leave room for that possibility. But also, if I had gone to the parade, I probably, as said, wouldn't have gone for dinner last night, wouldn't be recording right now, wouldn't have had the capacity this morning to do a whole bunch of errands that got me several steps closer to where I need to be for leaving in 2 days' time. So it's like, I think what tends to happen is that we focus on the things that we're not going to be able to do because we're taking the time to support our needs. What we don't do, and what I think is the more important thing to do in this situation, is to focus on what are the things we're likely to be able to do by focusing on our needs. And it might be different. We may not know what that is, but it's like, if we're in that position where it's like, okay, use this week. I'm not going to be able to go to the walking parade. I'm probably not going to see a bunch of people. I'm not going to have a little bit of fun. But by not doing that, I'm going to be more resourced. I'm going to have more capacity. I'm going to be able to go and see the friends. Like there was a friend, and this was the tough thing. There was a friend who was in town who I have literally never met in person, who is somebody who has been fundamental to a very important moment in my life. They were here for 24 hours, maybe 48. They got in Friday. No, it was 48 hours. They got in Friday lunchtime. They left yesterday morning. And I didn't get to see them while they were here. And it was so difficult not being like, oh, maybe if I just pop over to their hotel, maybe if I just go into, and I'm like, no, it is not the right thing for me right now. Yes, I would have loved to have seen this person. And I have no doubt that our paths will cross and we will see each other at some point in the future. But by saying, okay, I'm not going to go to the walking parade, I'm not going to see this person, I'm probably going to be able to see way more people between Sunday and Wednesday of this week. Some people who I've already made plans to see. I've got a better chance of being able to do those things if I make the decision not to do these things. And if I look at last year, I may not have been able to do a couple of things, but I may have been able to do 2 months worth of things that I didn't get to do because I sacrificed my wellness to do those few short-term things. And it cost me the ability to do those other things. But so if I flipped it around, I can go, okay, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm not going to get to do these things. But look at all these things I'm going to be able to do in the coming months that otherwise I wouldn't be because I wouldn't physically be well enough to do them.
It's interesting as you're talking. Like, I feel like this is probably something that a lot of people, it might resonate with a lot of people, is especially during Fantasy Fest, we're not going to hang out with the tourists that we don't know. We're going to dress up with our friends, which we do all the time. Like, it's because there's a label around it that it's this thing. It's like, it is just, I mean, it's so focused. It's like, wait, I'm going to see them next week and the week. I mean, obviously not me right now in my situation, but like thinking back at it, it's like, I was still hanging out with my core group of people. There were a couple of like random, interactions, and maybe you make a new friend. Like every year I tend to come out of Fantasy Fest with a new friend or two. But like for the most part, like I would be disappointed about not going to an event with the people that I was going to spend Sunday afternoon with anyway. Like, was I really going to miss out on something so epic, so mind-blowing that it was going to like alter the rest of my existence or my time on the island? Probably not. I mean, I've missed a couple of experiences where I've been like, oh, damn, that like, I wish I had been there in that moment. But there's nothing that I'm like dwelling on, like thinking back, like alone in my chair being like, oh, that one time at Fantasy Fest, I should have gone out. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
There was nothing that we sacrificed that I would have like, in retrospect, would have traded, because we both got sick that year and Claire was sick like before and after me. I luckily had a smaller window of sickness, but I would have traded quite a bit during Fantasy Fest to have had my own wellness.
Right. And the other thing is like, if we had wanted to, and this is where it's like, yes, we want to listen to our body. Yeah, we want to listen to our needs. Yeah, we want to listen to the indicators that our needs are compromised. They need some TLC. They need some support. They need some nourishment. And if we're going to make this choice, and by not doing this thing, we're going to compromise needs 2, 6, and 7, shall we say? We can then say, what can I do to meet needs 2, 6, and 7 on the other side of this? Because I'm just thinking, like, if
not even on the other side of it, during as well.
Well, yes, but what I mean is, yes, of course you're going to do that during. But what I'm thinking more of is like, if we were unable to make 2-2 Tuesday, and we were feeling so sad that we were missing out on 2-2 Tuesday, you and I could create a 2-2 Tuesday any week of the fucking year. We could be like, okay, we're going to go to the places and we're going to invite the people that we're actually going to want to spend time with at 2-2 Tuesday. Because let's face it, there's a handful of them that are the people we're really going to spend time with. Are we going to say hi to other people? Yes, probably would see people like that any other day of the week we're walking out and about and doing things. But this is what I mean. It's like, it's almost like saying, well, this is the only way I can do that. And I think that's what happens, is that when we sacrifice our well-being, it's like, well, this thing is here, and if we don't do it this way, it's not getting done. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying is, yes, take care of the needs. Yes, support those needs while you are recovering. But on the other side of recovering, okay, now what can we do to have some fun that brings in the elements of that thing that we wanted to experience, and sometimes we'll meet it far better than the original option. I mean, I know if you and I were throwing together a 2-2 Tuesday celebration, it'd be like 2-2 Tuesday take two. Like, it'd be like we missed the last one because we were sick. We want to do this. We wanted to do a holiday lighted bike parade at some point. We could be like, hey guys, who wants to do this? It's February. We don't care. We're breaking out the Santa hats and we're going to do the thing that we missed in December because we missed it in December. Like, I think that we put so many rules and restrictions on how things are supposed to happen. And if we miss this thing, we've missed it and it's never going to happen again. Well, that may be true, but you could actually create something that would be even better than the original. And Serena and I have done this on occasions where many times it's like, well, this didn't work the way we anticipated. Redo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do. And I think that this is where something that can feel disempowering, because it can feel like we don't have a choice. And the truth of the matter is we do have a choice. And we all know choice is about our personal power need. Like, if we are not feeling like we have a choice, our personal power need is being sacrificed. And I think that a lot of time we're like, oh, we don't have a choice. We have to rest. And the truth of the matter is that you got a choice. You could go out, make yourself more sick, make everybody else that you know sick, and probably be sicker for much longer. Or you could choose to stay home and rest and get quicker, better. Quicker, better? Better, quicker. Yes. So you're still making a choice in that situation. And then you can choose to go, okay, I've chosen to do this because it served me best to do it. I can still have my feelings about doing it. I can feel like I'm missing out on something. You can feel that, process it, express it. It's part of your emotional experience and expression need. And then you can be like, so now what can we do to bring in the aspects of this? Because the truth of the matter is, as I said, 2-2 Tuesday this year, the actual party thing was a bit, okay. What did I want? I wanted to dress up in a tutu. I wanted to have cool makeup. I wanted to hang out with my friends. And I wanted to go to the places that I enjoyed. Well, I can do that. And I can imagine people listening to this going, yeah, but you live on an island where you can wear glitter on a Wednesday afternoon and nobody would bat an eyelid, and you can put on fairy wings and a tutu and literally nobody would look twice. True. However, just because we live on an island where you can do that and nobody notices doesn't mean to say this is the only place that you can do it.
Or that
or that we do it. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it reminds me, I had a friend of mine who I went to university with. Unfortunately, she passed when she was still very, very young. But I remember the number of times where she would be like, I feel like dressing up tonight, putting on a costume. What do you think? And I'd be like, sure. So we go out to a regular night dressed in a costume, and people would be like, what's the event? We'd be like, we just felt like dressing up. Like, legit, that's what we did. And I think that the more we can normalize doing whatever the fuck you want, as long as you are not harming you and your needs, so somebody else and their needs, or the needs ecosystem, doing whatever it is that supports your needs in the moment that it does it, the more we can normalize that and be like, it doesn't matter if it looks weird to you. It doesn't matter if it's different to you. It doesn't matter if it's not something that you would do. It's something that I would do. And it's something I'm doing right now because it serves me to do so. The more options and opportunity it opens up in our world for getting our needs met. And therefore, the less we're going to feel like we're missing out when we're in those moments where our bodies are saying, please rest. I need rest to be able to function. And you can be like, oh, cool. Okay, well, we'll rest today and we'll just throw something together next Friday or 2 weeks from Tuesday. Like, you can do it whenever you like. And the chances are, again, it's like, do you need this massive event to throw on some tutus and have a good time? No, invite your besties over and dance in your living room. Like,
I mean, you can even, like I was saying, in the moment, like you can even connect to that kind of thing in the moment, where if Claire had decided, no, I don't want to, but she still had that kind of energy, she could have thrown on a tutu and had her own little private tutu party in her living room, in her jammies, like a tutu jammy jam. And like, that could have connected her. I remember on Saturday, I threw on, ironically, we're talking about tutu. Tutu and Co. is one of our favorite bars in Key West. And Saturday was the parade, the Fantasy Fest parade, which is usually kind of the finale of Fantasy Fest officially. And I'm like, I was having great JOMO that day that I wasn't going to have to deal with the crowds or the people, but I really kind of wanted to connect to it. So I threw on my tutu shirt. Like I didn't throw on an actual tutu, but I was like, and my husband kind of looked at me, he's like, okay. And I was like, I really want to kind of connect with being there right now. I can't be there, and that did a little bit, like, and we're not saying that everything you do is going to meet your needs, like, boom, done. It's just like I'm there. But that little thing I did made me feel like, okay, like, yeah, I'm kind of there in spirit.
Right. And the thing about it is, next time Serena is back here, even if there aren't events happening that are formally created, that will allow her to do the things that she wants to do, you can bet your ass we're going to be creating our own, irrespective of whether anybody else joins in or not. And that's the thing. You want to find somebody, and you want to find the people who will embrace doing the things that are going to meet your needs in the moment. Like Serena could show up pretty much any day of the week with me and be like, so this has happened. Want to go on an adventure today? Sure. Let's do it. Like, what are we wearing? Tutus, wigs, costumes. We taking bubbles with us? Are we bringing confetti? Sure, whatever. Or it could be like, you fancy getting up to some shenanigans? Fuck yeah, let's go do it. And the cool thing is that the more that you do this, the more you encourage other people to do it too. Because the amount of people who I don't think would have dreamed about putting on fairy wings and blowing bubbles around town, I have lost count of the number of people who are like, I want to be a fairy. How do I become a fairy? Can I be a fairy too? I'm like, throw some wings on. Done. Like, I mean, yeah, they want to be included in the things that we're doing, but the reason they want to be included in the things that we're doing is because we started doing them. Because they might not have thoughts about it. Yeah, exactly. It looks like fun. And so now they're like, oh, I want to do that. We're on to the next 6 things that we want to do, as well as being fairies and
we're bringing back a business. And, like the next time I'm in town, we're gonna have a twirling party. Like,
yes,
come twirl with us.
We need the Carmen Miranda outfit for that, and certain friends to join the party, because that was the ultimate twirling.
They might have to fight somebody if he goes back with me. So.
You know what? We can buy more Carmen Miranda outfits. We can have a whole army of Carmen Miranda twirlers happening. But this is the thing, and this is what happens, is like Serena will say something like, oh, what if we did this? And I'll be like, yeah, what if we did this as well? She'll be like, oh yeah, and what if we did this? And like all of a sudden we've created our own freaking carnival, and who the hell knew that? We didn't set out to do that. We set out to do something that was going to meet our needs. And then we found something else that was going to meet our needs, and something else that's going to meet our needs, and something else, and something else, and something else. And once you can get into that space, it doesn't matter if you have to at times say, you know what, this thing, I can't do this because I need to take care of me. Because taking care of you and your well-being in the short term means that you then have the resources to go, let's create some fun on the other side of it.
It's resourcing you to create in the future.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so while it's important, so I don't want people to think that we're kind of saying every time your body speaks to you, you have to listen, shut down, and that's the end of the story. That is the start. The start is like, okay, so what needs am I not going to get met through doing this? What are the ways I would like to get those needs met? Because it may be that, as I said, you end up creating something that's way better for you than what the original is. So I'm like, okay, Tutu Party doesn't have my cheesy tunes. Okay, where can we go in the middle of the day or in like late afternoon or early evening that we can bring our cheesy tunes with us, and they'll put them on and we can dance away?
It's ironic because if you're on video, if you're watching the video, you can see me kind of giggling right now. It's funny because a lot of people use Fantasy Fest, the tutu party being one of the main events, as a way to get attention, and they couldn't imagine getting that kind of attention on any other day. And it's weird because, like, if you do it not in the tutu part, like if it's not Fantasy Fest, and in Key West, it's a little, it's a little bit more normal. Like, there's not much that you're like, oh wow, that's different. But like, the need that they're trying to meet is, one of the needs is probably value and acknowledgement, and they couldn't imagine like what would happen if they did this when it wasn't sanctioned. But you probably actually, and not saying that that is a green spectrum way of getting your acknowledgement need met,
Right.
and it was just kind of ironic to me. I'm like, people would accomplish more. Like, tutu is people-y. There's so many people. It's like, I'd rather not be around a lot of people these days. Like, I'd rather have a close few. Like, I can create that. Well, shit.
And a lot of space. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing about it is that, yeah, attention, I think this is actually a podcast that we should do on another occasion. Attention tends to be a kind of poor strategy for trying to get our needs met, but without knowing other ways of doing it, that tends to be a go-to for several people. And the irony is that a lot of people, when it's sanctioned, they want the attention in that situation, but that attention suddenly becomes a negative when it's not surrounded by a bunch of other people that are normalizing doing it. And actually what ends up happening is it's like the quote unquote positive attention that you're getting over here ends up kind of flip-flopping into negative attention, because it's all about what everybody else is thinking and what everybody else believes about you. And in tutu, because everyone's in that, everyone's costuming and doing all the things. If you've got a great costume and you're standing out, people are like, oh my God, that's such a cool costume. So the feedback you get is often like positive reinforcement of like, yeah, acknowledgement, attention. On the flip side, you do have the times when you go out and about and you do things and people are like, what the hell are they wearing? Like, what are they doing? Like, have you seen them? And it's like that attention then becomes something that's a deficit. So instead, if you can find ways of meeting those needs that aren't dependent on what, so that like Serena and I are both come from a history where we would have used attention from others to try to get needs met, and also would have taken criticism from others as a detriment to our needs. And now we're like, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks of me. Like, I don't care if you like my costume or if you think I'm a weirdo. I'm enjoying it. And really, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else or the needs ecosystem, I don't care what you think.
Zero self first fucks given. Like, yes. Zero of them.
Exactly. And that's the cool thing. It's about like when
I mean that no fucks given in the self first context. Like
yes.
there are fucks about negatively impacting people's needs.
Yes. We're in a self first space, so we're not negatively impact anybody else. And in that context, we give zero fucks what anyone else thinks, because we're not hurting anybody else. And therefore, if somebody else has got an opinion about me in that situation, it's none of my business. And it's like, and that's the cool thing, is that once you get to understand the needs we're trying to get met through doing these things, and what are the things that are affecting that, it's like, hold on a second, this is all based on somebody else, what somebody else thinks, what somebody else feels, what somebody else is feeling about me. Well, what if I made it about how I feel about me? What if I made it about what I enjoy? I mean, I love like
concept,
right? It's like, I got some feedback at the zombie bike ride that people loved my makeup, but I loved my makeup. I wouldn't have cared if anybody else, like, I was sending photos to Serena, like, I love how this has turned out. Like, and Serena, like, obviously she was like, nailed it. Like she loved it too, but I loved what I did. And I wouldn't have cared if nobody else liked it or if other people thought it looked awful. I'm like, cool. I love it.
You don't have to like
with it. Yeah. And so this is the thing, is that so often, like, even when we're thinking about these things that we may want to create afterwards, if we can take the dependency on what other people think and feel out of the equation, then it frees us up. It liberates us to be able to do exactly what we want, how we want, where we want, in the way we want, that's going to really meet our needs the best. And it's a it's a beautiful thing when you can get to zero fucks given about what other people's opinion is of the things that you are doing. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't care about other people. Like I value the perspectives of people who I know, like, respect, trust. Like if Serena said to me, you might want to think about this and this, because I trust her and I respect her, I would take that on board. It would become a factor in my decision-making process. I wouldn't change what I was doing because of what Serena thought. I would allow her perspective to influence me and what I think and feel and the choices that I'm going to make. Outside of that, though, especially when you're talking about strangers who you will probably never see again. And the irony is that in my experience, when we do those things, when we have those shenanigans, when we create something, especially it's like, this thing didn't happen, let's create this. I would say overwhelmingly the response is positive from other people. But the good thing is we don't need it. And that fear of what it's going to be doesn't hamper us or inhibit us from doing the things that are really going to meet our needs.
I almost feel like it fuels us sometimes. Not the fear, but just like, it's not a, I realize that could sound like, oh, like a one-upping type of thing, but it's like, let's show them it can be different. Let's like it. It makes us want to show people, like, let's just go out on a random day and blow bubbles. Why? Because people don't normalize to just running around with bubbles and like having bubbly fun. Like,
and I think that's the thing, is it's when you talk about the fueling, what you're saying is you're wanting it. We love normalizing different ways of meeting needs because it opens up possibilities for others. I got to tell you, I didn't realize how much people respond to bubbles until we started blowing them. I cannot tell you, like grown burly men, and this is no like judgment of like they should or shouldn't be, like the amount of times you'll go past and they'll be like, bubbles, and I'm like, yes, like that inner child gets, like that spark of the inner child gets lit and they come alive. And it's so beautiful to see, because you know, with some of these people, they're not allowing that part of themselves out, and they're not nurturing and supporting those needs very often. So if we can open the gateway by the things that we're doing, not from a place of we need to take care of your needs because you're obviously not doing so, but we're loving what we're doing and we're having fun, you're getting a benefit from it too. Ding, 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 ding.
And it's not a bubbles are fun, you need to use bubbles, you need to be around bubbles, like bubbly, but it's like, we're doing this. If you come into it, my favorite is the people, and it happens every single time when we're on like a bubble brigade, and it's like the person's are like, look at them blowing bubbles, and you get a little closer and they're like, oh, bubbles, and they're like dancing through them. It's almost like they want to be like, how dare you spread your bubbly goodness around, but then they can't like walk through them without like just in like.
I think what happens is the cultural conditioning around judgment is the first thing that comes up, and then all of a sudden the bubbly joy kind of takes over. And it's like I want to judge you, I want to judge you, oh no, the bubbles got to me.
and you can't, I mean, and we're just having fun, and it's like you walk through and maybe they put that judgment right back up when they walk through it, but for that moment there's those pure moments of just like childlike happiness that you see in the people who are adulting around you. It's like, oh, I helped create that, like, and I mean, yeah, we've gone totally sideways, but
we just followed the bubbles. This is where they led us. So coming back full circle, the reason that we ended up where we are is because when you listen to your needs, whether that is to listen to your body, listen to your brain and how your brain is functioning, listening to your emotions, and listening to what it is that they need moment by moment, what will end up happening is that, and it feels like we've gone sideways and we've gone off on a massive tangent, but in actual fact, what we're doing is we're saying you continue to do this through the process. So you don't just do this when your body goes, oh, fuck this, we're going to bed. You do this, and then you listen for what's the point at which, okay, now I've done enough of this thing that I'm now ready to transition to something else. So maybe we go into a more neutral space where we're not like in that kind of healing space, we're more in like a sustaining space and like calibrating back to that. But then what we do is you continue to do that. And at the point where you have the resource and the desire and different needs are now up, the needs that would have been met by the thing that you've maybe not been able to in the first place, at that point, you can then tune back in and go, okay, now what do we want? And maybe what we want is bubbles. And maybe what we want is a tutu dance party out on the pier. Maybe what we want is to snuggle up on the couch and watch a movie. It doesn't matter what it is. Like your version of this, you don't have to be into glitter and confetti and bubbles in order to meet your needs. It's just something that meets ours. And something that we notice a lot of the time, especially the bubbles, that really like sparks other people. And I think that what's happening is in those moments where you see that kind of childlike wonder and awe and joy kind of peak out, is that is the person's needs speaking up and going, I want this too. And that's what we love to see, because that person for that second is connecting to what their needs are saying to them. And they're responding to that. Now, whether they do that again in the next moment, whether they did it in the previous moment, doesn't matter. But what we're doing is we're kind of opening that door to the fact that there are different possibilities in the ways that we meet needs without even realizing it. We don't go around going, bubbles, yes, have bubbles because they're meeting your needs. Like, this is like, that's not what we're saying.
Going out because we think it, like, because of what we do and how we do it and live it, breathe it, like it needs, I mean, needs are everybody, but needs come out of our mouths a little bit more often than the average person. But we're not setting up, like, we're going to meet our needs today. We're going to go be fairies. We're going to blow bubbles. It's like, we know certain elements is going to meet our needs. Like, I need to create more joy today. That's part of meeting my needs. I'm doing this to meet my needs. And we go through like our individual needs process. Clara and I are very much, similar, cut from a similar cloth, sharing the same brain. So oftentimes it's like, oh, what about this? Ooh, that sounds good. I think that would feel good. And it's not like, ooh, that's going to meet, this, and this. It's like, that's going to feel good. And we know it's going to meet a bunch of needs.
Absolutely. And sometimes the needs will trigger that. And the good thing is that because we do the needs practice on a regular basis, sometimes it's the needs practice in the morning that's like, okay, here's the thing I need to meet that need this day. That prompts it's like a chain reaction. It's like, oh, I want to do something that's fun. I want to bring fun in. What can I do that's fun today? Oh, Serena, you want to do this? This feels fun. Oh, yeah, that feels fun. What if we did this as well? That makes it even more fun. Yeah, let's do that. That makes it even more fun. And then the next thing you know, we've created this like hoopla of shenanigans. Yeah, that is just it's then and then and then and then and then. And so that's the thing, is that you want people around you who will encourage and support you on doing the things that will meet your needs as you are listening to them, as they are guiding you to what is right in this moment. And I think that so often when we talk about listening to our needs, listening to our body, we think about only doing that when it is giving us signals that we need to stop, which is important to do. It's also important to listen when it tells us to go into neutral. It's also important to listen when it tells us to go. And when it tells us to go, we don't want to be holding back. It's not like you don't want to be driving with the handbrake on. You want to be like, wee, let's go. And that is, and you have the resources and capacity to do that if you have listened every step of the way. Anything else you want to share before we finish up today?
Nope, I'm good.
Meandered in a whole bunch of different directions, but I love where we ended up. I mean, I love the stops along the way as well, but I love where we ended up. That's it for today then. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. We'll be back next week with another episode. And between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today. If you like what you heard and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, listening to your physical, mental, and emotional needs and where they're unmet may sometimes make you feel like you're missing out, but it could lead you to creating something even better on the other side.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.